so we're gonna use money to do this first, and then we're gonna move on to looking at with base 10 blocks, because we use base 10 blocks more often than money. So when we think about it with money, I'm giving it to you as money first because you're more familiar with money. When I'm asking you about which is more, $100 or $98, which one is more? $100 is going to be more. And I know that because I think about place value. You girls know it because you think about money. But when I look at those numbers written out, and I'm going to write them out just so that I can explain the why, I have $100 and I have $98. Now you girls just told me that which one is greater?
100.
$100 is greater than $98. So for me, I think about place value. I have my hundreds, my tens, my ones. Does this number have any hundreds?
No.
No, so I'm just going to put it there so we can say it's imaginary. But I have my hundreds, tens, as well. When I'm comparing numbers, I always look at the greatest place value. So my greatest place value is going to be which one? My hundreds, my tens, or my ones?
Your 100.
Your hundreds. And I know that because you girls just told me that $100 was greater than $98. And the reason is because I have hundreds here, I don't have hundreds here. So when we're looking at money, I have right here 100. How many ones?
4.
4 ones. How many tens?
40.
40. Now the reason we call our dimes tens is because how many dimes make a dollar?
10.
10. So you can think about these as tenths because 10 dimes makes your whole. When I think about pennies, how many pennies makes a dollar?
100.
100. So we can think about these as our hundredths because 100 pennies is going to make our whole. So we have $104. How many do we have here?
40.
40. 10, 20, 30, 40. But we're going to call these 40ths because it's a 40th of a dollar. And then how many hundredths do I have?
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have $104.46 or 46 100ths. So we can think about these as our hundredths. I've got 4 tens and 6 ones, so I have 46 hundredths. When I compare, which place value am I going to start with? Am I going to start with my 100 bills, my ones, my tens, or my hundredths?
100.
So if I want to compare your money to my money, I'm going to look at my pennies first.
No.
No, what am I going to look at first?
100.
Hundredths. So I'm going to look at starting with my greatest place value first. So I gave you this as a visual. Now you have money in front of you, and we're going to look at that money that you have in front of you together. So I'm going to tell you how much to grab, and then what I am going to do for both of you is I'm going to give you the ones, and I'm going to give you the large ones because that's what I got. You've got 3. You've got 1. If you girls can grab for me, if you'll grab 3 dimes, I want you to grab 2 dimes. And both of you grab 5 pennies. Put it in front of your money with your whole. These are your wholes. I have 1 whole dollar and I have 3 whole dollars. Put your dimes and your pennies in front of you and line them up so that you can easily see them. Do you have your dimes?
Yep.
Put them with your whole. And then put your pennies next to it. Okay, how much money do you have? Bill Marie, how much money do you have?
$1 and 10 cents.
This is what
10.
plus
20. 6.
Okay, I have 10, 20. How much are these worth?
5 cents.
A penny? We talked about how many pennies are in a dollar.
10.
There'd be 10 dimes in a dollar because I would have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $1. So there are 10 dimes in a dollar because I can skip count by tens. How many pennies are in a dollar?
100.
100. So these are worth 1 each because it would take 100 of these to make $1. So I have 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So I have $1 and
20 cents.
20,
5 cents.
5. I have $1 and $25. But I can also look at this as reading a decimal in number names. I can read this whole chunk together. When I read that whole chunk together, what is it?
25.
25. And so when I read a decimal, I think about my place value, T, H, T, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. When I read this as a decimal, I always look at what place value my last digit is in. So what place value is my last digit in?
100.
My hundredths. So if I want to read it as a decimal, when I see the decimal, what word would I say? And. So, and I'm going to go here to Gloria. I have, read it for me.
$1.
Nope, read it as number names, sorry.
1 and 2,500.
1 and 25 hundredths. Now let's look at what you have. What is your whole?
$3.
I have $3. And again, how much is each dime worth?
10.
10. So I've got 10, 10, 10. And I'm going to have you label, so I'm going to give you that. How much are your pennies worth each?
1.
1. So if you can label that. Beautiful. I have now, how many cents do you have?
35 cents.
35 cents. So if you could label that for me. Okay, read this as money for me first, because we think money.
$3.35.
Beautiful, $3.35. Now I can connect this amount to my place value and read it in number names as a decimal. So again, I want to think about what word is this? And. And now I'm going to think about what place value my last digit is in. So can you label this with your place values like I did with Bill Marie? So what place value is that last digit in? Hundredths. So can you read this whole thing for me now in number names?
3 and 3,500.
Okay, so she has 1 and 25 hundredths. You have 3 and 35 hundredths. Now I'm going to rewrite these together just so you can see them. And what I'm going to do for you girls is I'm going to rewrite it going vertically, because sometimes when I have it going vertically, when I have it going up and down, it's easier to compare place value. There's one thing that's important when you're lining it up with place value, and that is that you make sure that your correct place values line up. So in decimals, a good hint is to line up your decimal first, and then to go back and plug in your numbers. So I have here 1 and 25 hundredths, and I have here 3 and 35 hundredths. What place value are you going to look at first to compare?
1.
I'm going to look at my ones place. I have what 2 digits?
1.
A 1 and a
3.
3. So what do I know now about these numbers? If I wanted to compare them, what do I know about these numbers now? Greater than, less than, equal to?
3 is greater than?
Okay, you're right. 3 is greater than 1. So I can make a comparative statement and say that 3 and 35 hundredths is
Greater than 1 and 25 hundredths.
good. So that was pretty easy because I started with the whole number. Now let's say that you both have how many wholes? 2. So now you both have 2 as your whole number. So since I both have 2 as my whole number, what would I do next?
Look at the 3 and the 2.
Look at the 3 and the 2. What place value is that?
10.
Tenths. Since I have 2 tenths and 3 tenths, which is my greater number?
3.
3. So now I can make a comparative statement and say what?
2 and 3,500 is greater than 2 and 2,500.
I can also start with this number and I can say 2 and 25 hundredths is
Less
than.
2 and 3,500.
Good. Now I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to keep the numbers pretty much the same, but I'm going to add 2 pennies. So now how much do you have?
7.
7. So her number has now changed. Oops, and I forgot to change my hole here, but you girls did good with that anyways. And here. Okay, so now, oh, I'm gonna add a dime to, no, I'm gonna leave that. You have a 7. Oh, I wanna do that opposite. I'm gonna give you a 7. And you're gonna keep a 5. And there's a reason behind my madness, I tell you. Okay, so now, what is your number?
2 and 2700.
And your number is?
2 and 3500.
Good. So now if I want to compare those 2 numbers, you have 35, you told me, and you have 27, you told me. I want to compare with place value. Woo, I see that 7 at the end. That's bigger than 5. Am I good?
No.
No, why not?
Because 3 is bigger than.
Oh.
Good. Do I compare my pennies first?
No.
No, I always start with the...
Hundreds.
Well, you would if you had hundreds, but you don't. So what would you compare first?
10.
Your dollars, your penny, your dimes, or your pennies?
$1.
I'm going to compare my dollars. So I always start with the greatest place value first. So you both have $2. So now what am I going to do?
3.
Go on to the 2 and 3.
I'm going to go on to the 2 and 3. So we don't look at that last digit until we've already looked at all the ones before. That last digit is only if our place values before it don't work. So who has the greater number?
2 and 35.
Good, 2 and 35 hundredths. So now, girls, I'm going to have you pull out your whiteboards. And I'm just going to slide your money out of the way, because now I want to connect it in another sort of way. I want you to write down these numbers on your whiteboard. Write down those 2 numbers. And I'm going to try to zoom along because I know that I'm going to run out of time on my recorder. Okay, so first of all, I want to go over this. I don't know if you guys have used base 10 blocks, but this is an important part of learning. So this is going to represent my whole number because I have 100 in there. And we talked about 100 hundredths equals 1 whole. So this is going to be my whole number. This is going to be what?
10.
Tenths, because there are 10 of them in there. So when I look at my decimal, this is going to be your tenths. And then that means that these, if 100 of these make 1 whole, this is going to represent what place value?
1.
I have, this is going to be my 1 whole. This is my tenths. So this is actually going to be my hundredths, because 100 of these would make my whole. Does that make Oh, I love the oh moments. Yay! So I'm going to go ahead and put a decimal in between there. And we're going to represent the first number, which is going to be 1 and 68 hundredths. So if you could do my, no, I'm going to give you each your own number. So you're going to do the first number, 1 and 68 hundredths, and you can pull whatever you need. And you're going to model the second number, 1 and 71 hundredths. So use your base 10 blocks. You're doing the first number. You're going to do the second number. All right, start with your whole. How many whole do you have? And if you'll keep it in front of you so that we can compare in a moment.
Okay.
So
To make $1.
put that
Can you
in.
put these back?
Just leave those for now.
So
And I want you to represent your number, 1 and 68 hundredths. Bill Marie, can you use these to represent your number?
wait.
let's just make sure we're under the same agreement. This is what number?
1.
100.
1, because that's your whole. 100 hundredths is going to make one whole. 100 over 100. Okay, so then I put a decimal, because now I'm going to move on to my decimal. How much does each of these represent?
6.
There are 6 of them, but they represent what place value?
10.
Tenths. So I have 1 tenth, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths, 6 tenths. And what place value do these represent?
8.
1.
Place value?
Oh,
100.
Hundreds. And I have 8 of them. So now I've represented 1 and 68 hundredths. Now I ask you to model for me the second number. How much does this represent?
1.
1. After I've done my whole, what do I add? And, which is a decimal. Good. How much do we have here?
7.
7 what? Place 7 tenths. So, and then you have what?
1.
1. So I put these here so that you have the numbers, but I'm going to now line these up so that we can compare. Try to put them in a straight line. There we go. And there we go. So when I'm comparing my place value, look at your whole number. What do you notice? Your whole number, Bill Murray's whole number versus Gloria's whole number. What do you notice?
They're the same.
They're the same, so what am I going to do?
you're gonna go on to the next.
I'm going to go on to the tenths. What do you notice about your tenths?
Mine's bigger.
Yours is bigger. How do you notice that?
There's 1.
There's one more tenth. Do I need to move on to my hundredth place?
No.
No, because my 10th place tells me right away. So looking at it now in the number form, and I tried to line up my digits by lining up what?
Your decimals.
I always want to make sure my decimals are lined up, because if I were to have another digit at the end here, it wouldn't matter because we determined right here. So now, what can I say? 1 and 68 hundredths is
It's 1 dot.
It's
less than, greater than, or equal to.
less than.
It's less than. So technically I would have these, side by side, like this, 1 and 68, and then you would put that symbol in. The reason I lined them up going up and down is because lining them up going vertically helps you to see the comparison on your place
Better.
value. And what place value did we go to compare? Tenths. T-H-T. Tenths, hundreds, thousands. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to pull out the sheet that I gave you with your formatives. And I'm going to just see where you're at, and that way I know how I can better help you. So if you look at row, you can just leave it. Look at row number 4 on your place value. And I want you to compare those. You have the boards to help you rewrite them going vertically if you need to as your comparisons. You can stop.